So we're doing a little bit of an opening, and we'll do a little test on this wheel bearing greaser. This one is made by Tusk wheel bearing greaser, front and rear, UBG-04. Comes in a sealed plastic deal here. I cut it open with a razor, and we'll go ahead and take it out. It's pretty nice. This is right on it, Tusk. It's got a little fitting here, a little spot here where the grease comes out, and a nice seal. I saw Super ATV sells their own, and I've got this one on Amazon. Rocky Mountain ATV sells the Tusk as well, but with shipping it was cheaper to order it through Amazon with Amazon Prime, so that's what I did. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and do one wheel here. We'll just pull the front wheel off. I'll get my grease gun out and we'll do the front one. All right, I got the wheel off. You want to go ahead and pull the cotter pin out. Then that's a 27 millimeter. You also want to take out these two bolts here, one here and one here. And then this thing literally should just slide off. If not, spray a little bit of PB Blast or something in there, which I have some here. I'll show you guys. We're gonna actually just go ahead and spray some right now, just to get a little bit on there now. We're gonna go ahead and hit that with some air real quick, pop that off, and I'll be right back. Once you get the bolt off, there's a couple washers in here. You can just go ahead and use a magnet. Should be, I believe, 2 in here. 1 and 2. And that's it. Now, that's the axle there. You can just go ahead and give it a little squirt if you want, but usually it doesn't take much to pop it out. Just if it doesn't want to just push in, use a brass hammer or a rubber mallet. So I'll show you guys what I use. Brass hammers do not damage the threads on an axle. So I see a lot of guys using rubber, but these are a lot heavier. They work a lot better. Just give it a little hit, and it's already moved. So we're gonna go ahead now and loosen these two bolts, and hopefully that hub's just gonna slide right on out. Be right back. All right, the bolts here are 15 millimeter. Once you get them out, just slide this off, set it to the side. Now the hub sometimes does not just slide off, like I said. Okay, as soon as I put my camera down and I put a hand here and a hand here, it just slid right on out. Even now I can't grab it, but it slid. There you go. So it just slid right on out. So there it is. Looks pretty good. As you can see, it's completely dry. There's literally no grease here. So anyway, we'll set that to the side. Now we're going to get our bearing tool. Now if you look in here, it doesn't look too bad inside. It's not too dry. It's clean. A little dusty here, but you know, it doesn't look like totally dried out, which is nice to see. So we're going to go ahead and get our tool now. Now the tool, I have to find my grease gun. What you want to do is, before you slide the tool in, you want to go ahead and you know, put a little bit of grease on here to help it slide in and out. So let me find my grease gun and I'll be right back. All right, what I did, since my tool is brand new, is I went ahead and stuck the grease gun on the end here and started pumping grease until I got just a drip to come out. Now I'm just going to take my finger and rub it around the area and just get everything greased up. Again, difficult to do with one hand. Let's see if I can do it here. Maybe. Let's see. So we're just trying to get some grease onto the seal, especially, so it'll grease up, and trying to get the seal to have some grease on it. Okay, now what we'll do again is we're just going to take and put this in here like this. So again, very difficult to do with holding the camera. What I did was I came right here to about this spot on the axle, and I just pushed down on it like that, and then started sliding this in, just turning it left and right. Got it to go in. It's in nicely now. As you can see, the axle is through. Now this is in. We can go ahead and we just push this onto the end and start pumping. All right, so I squeezed this thing, got to about my 6th one, and it actually started getting tight, like it didn't want to push any more grease in. I tried to almost force, the 7th, and I stopped because I realized, you know what? My seals are probably good, and it's full of oil, and there's no more room for any more oil. Otherwise, it's going to blow past the seals, and I don't want to ruin my seals. So I can't fit any more in. We're going to go ahead now and see if we can just slide it out. So we're going to probably have to move the axle again from the backside and give it a wiggle. So here we go. All right, so this is a good sign. So I went ahead and looked back in there now after I know that I've squeezed a bunch of grease in there. And literally you can see the black ring around the bottom, which is the grease. And you don't see any grease that's all filled up in there, which was a concern for me. I was a little worried, like, hey, am I gonna have a bunch of grease all over the place and filling up in that back area? And I don't. It looks great. Again, so a lot of people were saying to keep squeezing it till you start seeing grease come out these seals. I think that's a good way to blow out your seals. You kind of just want to squeeze until it kind of feels like it can't go anymore, and that means you filled it with the grease. Otherwise, you're gonna blow out your seals. So that's what I did. I know when I grease these fittings here, it takes about 7 from when it's totally empty to fill the whole thing up, 7 squeeze, and then it starts squeaking out the sides. So I'm gonna stop here. I'm about 6 to, between 6 and 7. We're gonna go ahead and we're going to put some anti-seize on these axles, maybe even a little bit around. Let's see, so we don't want these, I've seen people take a little bit of grease and just wrap it around that just a little bit. So we'll clean this up really, really good here. And then put just a tiny bit of grease around that just to make sure that it, has a little bit of grease around it so it doesn't get stuck in there. But that's how it works. And then you can do is put a little bit anti-seize in there, and that'll keep the axle from sticking in there as well. Make sure you don't get any grease on that from touching it like I just was touching. You can use a little brake clean to clean it. But anyway, that one's done. I'm put it back together now, and I'm pretty happy with that. In finishing this up, I just want to let you guys know these bolts get torqued to 37 foot-pounds, the top and bottom, and this bolt here gets torqued to 80 foot-pounds. And that's it. All right, we got the front all back together, back on the ground. We're going to go ahead and go to the back now. All right, we got the wheel off. As you can see, it looks pretty much exactly the same as the front, except for you don't have upper and lower ball joints. So you're going to have the caliper bolt there on the top and the bottom, and then the deal here to take the nut off, and then you slide it off same way I did the front. So it shouldn't be a big deal. Go ahead and get to work. All right, we are actually down to our last wheel bearing, and this one doesn't want to come off. So I'm going to show you guys how to get it off. So you're going to need a puller of sorts. I'm going to make one. I happen to have welding equipment and extra metal laying around, so I'm just going to make. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to use this piece of metal here. I'm going to drill a hole here, and a hole in the middle. We'll have to do some measurements. And then I'm actually going to weld a nut in the center. And then when the hole's here on the sides, they'll just use the lug nuts to hold it on. And that's how it'll work. So I'll be back and I'll show you guys how I do it. All right, so you can see it's sitting nice and flat. Make sure the threads look about the same. And now that I've got those in and these are nice and tight, I'll go ahead and slide my slide hammer in here. And the way this works is this particular slide hammer has a little thread on it here, so I can just thread it right in like this. Just thread it in. Make sure we get enough threads in it. And now we're just gonna that's what you're gonna need to do if you can't get the hub out. You're gonna need a slide hammer or a tool. I custom made this, it works great. And now I'll just add it to my tools. So basically, it just has to be a little bit dry right here. So you wanna make sure you always lubricate these. Didn't look too bad. My bearing wasn't really bad, so in any case, we're gonna go ahead and finish lubing these. All right. Wanted to show you guys with the tool here what I did with the lug nut. As you can see, it's kind of got an acorn look to it. So I made it just barely start in there. If you look at it from this side, it's sitting almost flush. So, but it does have just enough to start it, so it centers it on both sides. I made sure I drilled those. I think it was 1/16 or 1/8 less than 6 1/4. Make sure you measure yours. And then I just centered that bolt and welded it in. This gave me a nice little tool now to use for pulling that out. So in the future. All right. Again, thanks for watching and have a good day.